and I'm going to show you how to make 5 lunches in 50 minutes. There's a guide you can get at kitchenkarate.com to follow along and do this yourself. The quick overview is first we're going to chop all of our vegetables and seasonings, and then we're going to portion out our proteins. Then we're going to season everything, and then we're going to cook everything. We do that in distinct steps so that everything can be done smoothly and sanely, and that's the most efficient way to go about meal prep. So let's just jump right in. We're going to make chicken and rice 5 different ways. I want to show you how to make something as simple as chicken and rice and a slight variations of vegetables play out differently. So we're going to bring them to all different parts of the world, and that way your flight of meals throughout the week can have all different variety and taste great. So we're going to start with the rice just to get that cooking while we do all of our prep work. So you just want to portion out quick 5 handfuls. I do this without using measuring cups. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Conveniently, this was pre-measured to be 5 handfuls. So then how do you know how much water to put in? Well, this is 2 to 1. So I just dip my finger in and I note that the rice comes up to here. So I go again, and I'm going to fill my water up to that point, and then it'll be just enough rice to boil and simmer away. So get my finger in there. That's my handy dandy dipstick. So your hands are great measuring devices. I do all my measuring by hand and by eye. So then we just blast that on high and let that get going to a boil, and then we'll kick it over to simmer while we're doing all this other action here. So let's get our veggies going. I like to cut all of my vegetables first, and I'll just grab them by ingredient. I want to get 2 handfuls of each type of vegetable. So I'm going to do 2 handfuls of zucchini, just take the tops and bottoms off. Do that on both. And then I'm going to slice these guys lengthwise just to break them down. I'm going to break them down both exactly the same way, but I'm going to separate them into bowls so that they are doing different things for me throughout the cook. So if you can do all 4 at once, do it. This is a test of how sharp your knife is and how good your knife skills are. So you do that. If it gets to be cumbersome, just break it down to 2. You know, you're always trying to push the envelope as to how fast you can get through stuff and break down your ingredients. That's kind of the whole game with meal prep is how fast is your knife skills and how quickly can you season things up. Beyond that, it's really about organization. So I'm going to take these 2 handfuls here. This is going to be a little extra. So we'll put those there, and then we're right on to our next vegetable. So let's get 2 handfuls of tomatoes. I'll measure those out with just 1, 2 handfuls. Rinse them off real quick, and get these guys in the game. You come back here. You're not getting anywhere, buddy. So I break these down. Just go flat like that, and then you just cut them. Just roughly. I'm not trying to do anything pretty or fancy. I just want to get some lunches made for the week. This is me trying to stay away from the deli. You know, I'm not trying to create a 4-star experience for myself out, you know, when it's time to eat lunch. I'm just trying to have enough good food in front of me that I make that decision rather than the food truck decision, which is what I make if I don't have my meals prepped. So it's good to keep that in mind, that it's like a balance between how much time you want to put into meal prep versus the results. And what you want to aim for is good enough. You want to have the meals be good enough to eat, something that you are going to look forward to next week when you come back for it, and that you wouldn't shy away from and be like, oh, I don't like meal prep because my meals weren't good enough. But as soon as you get to that level, that it's good enough, then you're done. You don't need to spend any more time. You don't need to put any more finesse into it than that. So the name of the game is just to keep moving quickly. And you just grab up your your vegetables one at a time and you just keep banging them through. I like to just take the tops off, get out the meat of the center there, pop the caps off so you can eat all of this as well. And then do the same for this. And this is going to be a little more than 2 handfuls, so I'll probably leave some back in a different bowl that I can use for a different meal, maybe a dinner later in the week. So you just slice through. You always want to keep your claw hand safely away from the blade. And it's good with peppers because you can just hold one side of it the whole time. And I'm just going to make these kind of stir-fry cuts. Everything that we're doing is getting cooked. We're not doing any cold lunches on this cook. So I would maybe dice these if I was going to make a salad, but today we're going to do stir-fries and baked dishes, which you'll see how it develops over the course of this cook. And I've improvised quite a bit. You know, I just want to get my vegetables cut first. That's all I'm thinking about. I'm not really thinking exactly how it's going to come together. I just know that it's the right amount of produce. So then I'm going to grab 2 handfuls of mushrooms. Very quickly. Get one over here. Another. And we'll, again, just break these down very roughly. Just a rough chop. Almost like you're mincing something. You just break them down. Don't spend a lot of time finessing your mushrooms. It's a fool's game, finessing mushrooms. Put these out of the way. Put that down. Good. We got some nice mushrooms. And then I have now 4 different veggies. I need 1 more to make my 5 meals. I do 2 veggies, 1 meat, and 1 small handful of grains per meal. So I'm going to get 2 handfuls out of this broccoli here. And just rinse off the top. Now let's break this down. Broccoli, this has got stir fry written all over it. And I'm not going to, you know, get the florets looking all pretty. I'm just going to get this broken down. Once things get cooked down, you're not going to know the difference. But you will have broccoli in your life and in your diet, which is what you want. Let me put that down there. Okay, now we've already got all of the vegetables that we need for our 5 lunches chopped up and ready to get seasoned. Now we need to do the rest of our plant matter before we switch over to our meats. I like to cut all of the plant matter. I see that my rice is boiling, so I'm just going to turn that down to a simmer. And if we measured it right, which I kind of did by my hand, I'm going to find that the water's gone right as the rice is finished cooking, which is good. And the thing is, I don't put a pot top on it, and I don't use the measuring devices. You just eyeball it, and you can look at it. If it looks like all the water's going to be gone before it's cooked, guess what? Add some more water, and then keep simmering. It'll be done. If it looks like it's going to be cooked before your water's done, dump the water out. Done. So don't worry about getting everything exactly right, or thinking that if you didn't do, you know, a certain part that you're not going to be able to recover. Cooking is very much a thing that you can improvise, and you got to trust your own nose and eyes and figure it out on the fly. So I encourage you to let go of all of those measuring cups and devices, and that'll force you to actually, you know, start trusting your nose and your eyes, and that's how you're going to become a better chef really fast. What I like to tell people is eat your mistakes. It's the fastest way to learn. All right, let's put that down there. And I believe with that, I have one last piece of produce. It's my jalapeno for our Mexican dishes. And I'll get that just chopped up. If you don't like things to be too spicy, then you get rid of the seeds. But I like spicy just fine. And I'll mince that down. And I'm going to put that right in the bowl I was using for my rice. Why not? Now, I'm going to get rid of this cutting board, which was used for all the produce, and I'm going to switch over to my meats cutting board. So put that there. Deal with you later. And I'm going to get this out. You know, it's always good to have two different cutting boards, one for your veggies and one for your meats. And if you can, go non-porous with your meats. So let me grab out the chicken. Here we go. And we're going to prep our chickens. So what I'm going to do is get 5 palmfuls, and I'm going to leave two of the palmfuls uncut, and 3 of them I'm going to slice as you would for stir fry. Now, the more you cut things, the faster they cook. So the stir fry action is going to get smaller than these bigger cuts that I've got here, which I will put in these bowls. And I'm just going to stack them right on top of what they're going to go with. And I'm going to organize these in a second once I get the rest of my pieces cut up. So I'm going to do a few more palms, and then I'm going to slice little stir fry pieces out of this chicken and put that in a bowl, put that on the side. And really, I'm going to organize what my meals are after I've cut everything. I'm going to decide what's going to go with what, and that's going to start to give me the ideas of like which flavor profiles I want to take them to. The ingredients can kind of inspire you to say, hey, this broccoli here is making me think of a Chinese stir fry, or maybe it's a Mexican stir fry. So in fact, I'll leave that one whole, and I'll just break this down into smaller pieces, and I'll put that remaining chicken back in my fridge for later. And it's good if you just portion out your meats like this ahead of time. It gets you to, you know, eat the right amount. If you do everything by handfuls like this very quickly. So I'm going to put this back after I wash my hands very quickly, get all this chicken juice off me. At that point, you're also done with your knife. So once you've finished chopping all of your vegetables and meats, you can clean up your cutting board, you can clean up your knife, and you're all done with that. And you know, the next step is just to swab off the decks a little bit, and then we're going to get ourselves prepared to do our seasoning. So you want to, as much as possible, use the same area over and over again while you're doing your meal prep. It makes it so that everything just runs smoothly, and you're not creating like a 20-pan pile up in your kitchen whenever you're doing meal prep. Because, you know, a lot of times people, they shy away from meal prep because they say, well, it's going to make a hot mess of my kitchen. Well, that's more of an organization thing and how you run your show in your kitchen. If you allow yourself to go everywhere in the kitchen, yeah, it's going to be a hot mess. But if you just take the beat to reset and start again, then you're going to be in good shape. So the first thing I want to do before I start seasoning is decide what's going to go with what. I don't want to have 2 servings of zucchini in a meal. I want zucchini and tomatoes in a meal. And then maybe I'll put that with a whole chicken. And, you know, there's tomatoes there. I'm thinking maybe Italian. Another one is I got chicken here with mushrooms. What might go well with the mushrooms? I could do that, you know, as a separate meal with zucchini. Those mushrooms are making me think French, so maybe I'll go there. These bell peppers and broccoli go really well together, and that could make a good stir fry. I can do broccoli with mushrooms and another chicken. And lastly, I can do some tomatoes and bell peppers with a third chicken. And I'll figure out the seasonings that I want to do with those things in a moment. So now what I have is perfectly portioned ingredients for 5 lunches. and I have them organized. So I've done my meal planning after I did my shopping. All I did was say, let me get 10 servings of veggies, 5 servings of meat. I'll figure out the rest on the fly. My rice is just simmering away, and when that water's done, we'll be good with that. So I'm going to pull in my seasonings. So what I encourage you to do is get all of your seasonings into the area where you're going to cook all at once. So this is like what the French call your mise en place. It means everything in its place, and the idea is to have all of the stuff that you want at arm's reach. So I'm going to move my ingredients out of the way into a staging area, and I'm going to leave one of them here that I'm going to season first, and I'm going to cycle through all of them and season up my meals quickly when I decide where they're each going to go. So I'll put these here, and let me get all of my spices out. It's good to just get all of the spices out at once that you're going to use, especially all the dry stuff, so that you can just reach into the cupboards one time. Now, these spice racks I created so that I could organize my spices by cuisine, and it instantly tells me what the flavor profile is for the cuisine that I want to do. So I have extra information written on top, and then I have the actual, top 4 spices built into it. And if you want something like this, you can get on my website, thekitchenkarate.com. There's a guide. It's a 1-page sheet. It lists the top 10 seasonings for each of the 10 most popular world cuisines. So you can just tape that up where you are and let that guide you to do this like no recipe cooking that we're doing here. So what do I have here? I got a whole chicken. I got tomatoes. I got zucchini. In my mind, I was starting to think Italian just because of the tomatoes. So I look at my thing and I say, hey, let me throw some oregano on there. And so I have these 3 bowls, and I just eyeball it. And what's good about like having all of your ingredients separate, even though I might cook them together, the reason it's nice to have them separated is so that you can see how much seasoning you're putting on each. Once they're all mixed up together, it's a little harder to figure out. So, and there's some other virtues to keeping your ingredients separated, because I know that it would seem to make sense that you want to put the ingredients together for speed. But in fact, that can hurt you downstream, because the more locked in you get with what you've decided and the more they're ganged up together, the more thinking you have to do. And this is allowing me to not think very much at all. I'm just, hey, there's food in front of me. I'm putting seasonings on it. I put oregano, I put basil, I put thyme. I'm very happy. I see on the top that maybe some red wine might go well with this action, so I'll put some of that in. If I like things spicy, I'll say just a little pour. Like, you just eyeball stuff. If you don't know how to cook very well, what you're going to find is you know more than you think. You've got eyes. You can tell when something has too much stuff on it, or you can tell when things don't have enough stuff on it. So I like all of the seasonings that I have here. The thing that we haven't put on yet is what's called the starting 5, and that's the basics that play across all cuisines everywhere. So I'm going to pull those forward right now. And that is, you guessed it, salt and pepper, and garlic and onion, and a cooking oil, usually olive oil. So we're gonna use that for most everything that we do. And again, you just are sprinkling it on to everything. Just a quick dousing. Put it on. And so these 5 seasonings, like I said, they play across all cuisines everywhere. So you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to want to have them on almost everything that you do. Maybe you don't like garlic, maybe you don't like onion, maybe you don't like both of them, but some amount of those things. And sometimes you might swap out your olive oil for butter or a different kind of oil, or you might mix them. But you're going to have these 5 as your starting crew, so that's why I call them the starting 5. So boom, that's done. So we're all set to cook our Italian dish. So now let's pull in another one. Here's another full chicken breast. We got mushrooms, and that was making me think of going to France with this one. So again, we'll throw our salt on. We'll put a light dusting of salt on here. And we'll put some pepper in. You know, and like I said, you wanna get to know what your own taste preferences are. You, your family, people you're cooking for, you know, of how much, how little salt you want. I can say that, you know, when teaching people, people generally under-season terribly. The inclination is to be timid, to put little flecks on and say, oh, no, you know. And really what you want to do is you want to throw seasonings on there like you just don't care. Like put it on and then see how it tastes, and it'll teach you, did I like that, did I not like that? But if you put too little on, then you're not learning anything except what raw ingredients taste like, or, you know, unseasoned ingredients taste like. So be bold, put those seasonings on there. I'm gonna put some butter in, because what's a French dish without some butter, right? So, and then, you know, you can put it all in one dish, or you can break it up. I have a habit of just spreading it around the different things. But it's nice because you can really see, you know, how much of the various seasonings that you're putting on when you keep it all, you know, separated like that. So I'm gonna now grab some seasonings from my handy dandy French aisle. Herbes de Provence does a lot. I'll put that in there with my butter and my salt and pepper and onion and garlic. So I'll put that in with some olive oil. Just as I'm saying this, I'm realizing that I didn't put my olive oil onto my Italian dishes, which I'll do when I finish up these other ones. But that's the fun of doing things live. You figure it out on the fly. This is actual unedited cooking. This is how it's done in my real kitchen. I forget things and I go back and I figure it out as I go. But when you have all these kind of like guide markers, it helps you remember things sooner or later. So I practice and preach a lot of organization. That's kind of like my approach to cooking. It's more of an organizational problem than an artistic endeavor for me. Because I'm just like, I just want to get it done. That's my approach to cooking. I've never wanted to be a restaurant chef. I'm not trying to beat Bobby Flay. I'm just trying to beat McDonald's, with some lunches. And I want to do it efficiently, and I want to be good enough that I eat. So I muddle through it. And because of the speed that I've kind of been able to create through this system that I call Kitchen Karate, I've actually been able to enjoy cooking, and my cooking got really good because of it. But it was all from the point of view of like, let's make cooking not suck first, and then we'll see if we can make it good. And so that's where I'm at. So now where do I want to bring these guys? I got tomatoes and bell peppers. How about I bring them to Thailand? How about I throw some curry on it? I already did my starting 5, so I'll throw some curry on each of these guys, give that a good dousing. And hit that one as well. Curry I go a little heavier on. And you'll learn all that stuff. Like curry's one you want to go heavy on. Chili powder, not so much. Maybe just a little dusting. And this, you want a real wake up in the middle of your lunch break. And then some mint, beautiful. I use a lot of powdered stuff. If I have time, I'll do fresh herbs. Like I did a little bit of cilantro I have ready. Let's throw some coconut milk in with this action here. So we'll get that pulled forward. And again, we're just gonna eyeball everything. So get my can open. Pop the top off of that. And you can scoop out the top layer with your can lid if you want. Pour a little bit into each of these. Be generous with the coconut milk. Maybe that's over generous, but hey, I'm worth it, So we got that. We're gonna put that on the side. And we got a Thai dish ready to go. now let's move on to our next one. Where should we take peppers and broccoli? And that's to me, it's got Chinese stir fry written all over it. So I'm going to start with my salt. Again, very quickly, just rough it into shape. And no surprise, meal prep is a little bit repetitive. You do the same actions over and over again, but that's what the efficiency is all about, is you kind of become machine-like about certain parts of it, you know? And you want to take the thinking out of the action as much as possible. So I'm going to take some lemon, I'm going to squeeze that in there. And get some nice lemon juice. You could use rice wine vinegar for your citrus, but lemon's great. What else might I want to have in here? Ginger, of course. You can't have a Chinese stir fry without some ginger. So we'll give that a good dousing. Oop, that's probably enough in that one, see? Overdid it there, so I'll just hold off on the broccoli. And now let's throw in some sesame seeds. Why not? That's good. And then Chinese 5-spice. Sure. Let's throw some in. I've warmed up the Chinese 5-spice. It's one of those ones that kind of like numbs your tongue a little bit. It's got the cloves in it and stuff, and wasn't a fan of that for a good long time, but now I am. I'm going to throw in some hot sauce, a little bit. I like spicy things, so you can hold off on that. You do you. I'll do me. But the process is going to work either way. So now we're down to our last one. We got mushrooms and broccoli and our sliced chicken. Maybe on this one, we want to take it to Mexico. So I'll start again with my starting 5. Hit that with our salt and our pepper. You can even, like, if you got a whole arrangement of all your different meals, you can just go and salt. Hit everything with salt, hit everything with pepper as much as you like. You can pre-portion out your salt if you're trying to be mindful of how much salt you're using. You can portion it out ahead of time so that you can actually control how much salt you're using. All right, now I'm going to put on my olive oil, a bit on each of these. Good. And here, now I get to use my jalapenos, which I love. And again, you can just throw those all in one. I'm going to squeeze some lime on all of mine. Gives it that bite. That's beautiful. And then, of course, we're going to get into the anchor of Mexican cuisine, cumin. Give that a good blast of cumin. Powder the tops of everything. And if a little oregano, give it a little bit of a deep flavor. And you can pick your poison with your heat. I've got chipotle and cayenne, but I've already put in my my jalapenos, so I think I'm gonna hold steady with my spices right there. So boom, we now have 5 well-seasoned meals. All we have left really to do is to get them cooked. So again, what you want to do is redress the surface. So you put away your seasonings as quick as you can. For me, that's just bussing these off camera. But even if you don't have them in fancy racks, you just kind of gang them up, throw them in the drawer. Take the time to actually get rid of that stuff. Put it away. You're going to thank yourself for that. When you're wrapping up, you're not going to want to be doing a lot of cleaning and picking up once you've finished this whole operation. So get ahead of that. Take the beat to redress. And then the decks are going to be clear, and your mind is going to be more clear. You can focus on what you're doing. You're much less likely to burn things or forget things if you actually take the time to clear the decks. This away. I put my knife away. All right. And then give this a quick broom down. Everything is back to one, which is nice. All right. So now the real fun begins. We get to cook. So, although I like the seasoning part a lot, I think that's where the real creativity comes in, is the seasoning. The chopping and the cooking is kind of functional, but the seasoning is where the magic happens. But you really get to see things come to life when things start cooking, which is why the actual cooking part is so much fun. So the very first thing I want to do is get my stuff that's going to roast into the oven. I got it set to 400 degrees. And the ones that I'm going to do in the oven are the full chicken breast, because they're going to take a little longer to cook, and I just want them out of my face. I want to focus on the stovetop stuff with my stir fry action. So I'm just going to take these items and pour them all in together. They're all going to cook together at the same time. Put this away and do the same thing over here. Get the chicken in, my tomatoes, and my zucchinis all well seasoned up. And we'll stir those once, probably, and get them blended together after they've had a chance to simmer and bubble a little bit. So let's get this in the oven. And you'd put that in for 20 minutes. I'm going to just kind of wing that as well. Usually by the time I'm done with my stovetop action, it's time to check on that. So my rice is still bubbling away, and that'll be ready soon enough. So I can turn my attention full time to doing my stir fry. So let me get the heat happening on the pans here. And I put everything on high, especially to start. You know, this is industrial strength oven action here, so I'm sure I'm going to turn it down before things are going to burn. But I like to get everything hot, get things happening, and then as I'm seeing what's happening, that's when I'll, turn it down a little bit. So while that's heating up, I'm going to bring the meals over that I want to do on the stovetop, and I line them up kind of to match with the stove, little ducks in a row like this. I'll go here, here, and here. Get these set. And a lot of times what I like to do is put the vegetables in first. I'll get the vegetables going and feel like they're kind of getting into a good place, and then I'll put the chicken in. You can throw it all in together, if you want, and it's really hard to get the vegetables, wrong. It's also really hard to get them perfect. So, why fight it? Just get it to a place where it's cooked through, to a place where when you put your fork into it, you're like, yeah, I want to eat that. Or you might be like, nah, you need a little more where that came from. You just test it with your fork. And then with the meats, you just have to make sure that they're cooked all the way through. That they're, with the chicken, we'll check it out with a cutting board, and we'll see that they're white all the way through. But don't stress about it too much. Like, is it cooked enough? Is it not cooked enough? It's going to be cooked. You can eat it raw. It's got flavor on it. It's cooked somewhat. It's cooked a lot. It's overcooked. It's undercooked. It's still all going to taste pretty good. Believe me, the people that are making food for you at the restaurants, the delis and stuff, they're not thinking about it that much either. They're thinking about how can we get more food, more product put out as quickly as possible. If you want somebody to really, really think about it, you're going to have to pay them like $50 a meal to get that done. And that's what I call a special occasion. So here we go. Let's get some other vegetables going. Okay, we'll leave that right there. There we go. And now we're just going to stand by and stir our ingredients. I like to keep a little utensil holder filled with water, and just a wooden spoon. It's very easy. And you stir your stir fry action. And then you can dip it in there just to get the flavor off so you're not going from one to the other. And getting your French flavors into your Mexican flavors and your Mexican flavors into your Thai flavors. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's an international crowd, you know. But if you don't want to do that, just have a little utensil holder filled with water. Easy peasy, gets the flavor off. Ooh, hello, trying to escape? It's not going to happen. So this one's really kicking, so I'm just going to turn the heat down on it. And you know, it's funny. It's like people say, well, what temperature is supposed to be high, medium, high? It's like, my answer is like, I don't know how your stove works. I mean, you got to turn the flames up and then you turn them down based on what you're seeing happening. And so, you know, it's not super common. Here, I'm going to smoke us out here real quick. But that's called deglazing, by the way. You're taking a pan that's super hot and it's kind of getting a little crispy in there. Put just a little bit of water in, and it pulls all the seasonings off the bottom of the pan and deglazes it a little bit. Just chills it out is basically what I think. So I'm not worried about burning it. Again, I'll pour a little water in. My coconut milk is doing the job for me over there. But a lot of times I don't even need to do that. Maybe I didn't put enough oil in this time or something like that to keep the pan happy. But you can just adjust very easily with your water. But yeah, so people ask about, like, you know, what temperature and all that stuff, and they want step-by-step guidance. And I feel like that's doing a disservice to, you know, people who are really trying to embrace cooking or meal prep. It's much better to get strategies and guidelines and signposts and get the equipment right and get your workflow right. Focus on those things, you know, first and foremost. Get a good system in place. Get good equipment. And then the cooking techniques and the seasoning strategies, they start to blossom, you know. And then, because you like the experience of doing it, the workflow doesn't stink, like I said. You can actually focus on, like, okay, now I'm understanding this whole cooking thing. I understand, you know, when things are cooked to my liking or not. And similarly with taste. Oh, I can see what I like and what I don't like. I don't need XYZ chef or food blogger to tell me that. I can just put food in my mouth and say, yeah, I like that. Or that was too spicy, or that was too salty, or that was too bland. And then you start to think about, like, well, what did I do? How would I do that differently the next time? And you'll see how quickly it'll all come into focus for you if you take that attitude. So step away from the measuring devices, step away from the recipes. So I think my rice is already pretty much done, so I'm going to cut the heat on that one. No, not my stir fry, this one. And that'll be our cue to start actually putting our meals into the containers. This is the fun part where we get to see all our work come to fruition for our meal that are getting prepped. So I'm going to bring out my containers, my lunch containers, and I'm going to put at least the rice in there. And then as the other pieces start getting done, I'm going to put them in with it. But before I get the containers out there, I think I will put my chickens in. So, like I said, I organized it so it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, so I know which one goes with which. So now I'm going to drop my chicken right in the center. And make a little place for it here. Spicy. And one last one. A little more coconut milk in there. My Thai dish. That's going to be good. Love me some sauces. So now I can get rid of all of these bowls. Usually while things are cooking, I would be, you know, cleaning my bowls and putting things away, because you have a little bit of free time here, and it's always good to be cleaning and putting stuff away. It's the ABCs of cooking is what it's called. Always be cleaning, because you want to be at the end of it, you want the whole kitchen to feel like nothing ever happened. And then you got these nice little meals ready for you. And you can only do that if you're kind of cleaning as you go. So, you know, you look at what's going on in the pan, you can bounce back there, you can do a little bit of dishes, you can come back, check on stuff. And that's all happening because you're not looking at seasonings, you're not looking at instructions, you're just looking at your food in the pan because everything else is done. The shopping, the chopping, the seasoning, it's all done and put away. So now you really can just man your station and get things done. So I'm gonna switch to these tongs while I'm dealing with this raw chicken until it gets pretty well cooked. Excuse me. All right. Now we have raw chicken contaminated water, so it's good to think about that. And we're going to cycle that out. Once these start getting not raw, I don't want to keep touching it with, you know, something that's touched raw chicken. But for right now, while it's cooking, I can leave it like that. So I'm going to put this to the side and grab a new dish rag for my shoulder. And it's time to start placing our meals. These are the handy dandy Get Prepped containers, which I became a fan of about a year ago when I got them off of a Kickstarter, and I use them every week, and they're awesome because they fit exactly the type of meals that I make, which is this 2 parts veggies, 1 part meats, 1 part grains. Everything fits in like beautifully, and then you can store them in your refrigerator, and you pull them out and you put them in the cool lunch box and take them to work, and then the people you work with are really jealous about your really flashy lunchbox. So I'm going to take my lids off, get ready for the food to start coming in. Again, everything's sort of assembly line. That's the nature of meal prep. That's what makes it so fast. And so I'm going to pull my little trays first, which I can put all of my rice into. I'll take a new spoon, and I'll try to portion it out, you know, somewhat evenly. I know that it's ultimately 5 little handfuls worth, so I will go back through, try and give each of my meals a little bit of rice love. And this could be, you know, when you think about, you know, applying this strategy to week after week of meals, I'm showing you chicken and rice 5 different ways just to show you that you can get a lot of variety out of just chicken and rice. But you can easily imagine that this could be quinoa, and this could be lentils, and that's the rice, and, you know, even like some couscous or other kind of pasta dish. You can start to add variety, and that's going to start to influence, well, what kind of cuisine do I want to do? So right there you have a difference of your meals. And then in addition to that, then you start thinking about like, oh, maybe I'll change out the meats. And I'll see this one will be chicken, this one will be steak, this one will be I'm going to pour a little more oil on my pan here. Let me stir this up. Beautiful. This one really makes me cough. I see why. Excuse me, I'm getting pepper sprayed by it. It's the jalapenos. They're killing me. I pepper sprayed myself with my own lunch. Ah, beautiful. You turn the meat's over so that all the well parts get a little bit of chance to get charred up. Beautiful. Everybody gets a chance at the bottom of the pan. Make sure these guys all get a chance at the bottom of the pan. I'm going back in. It's like running into a house on fire here to save the chickens and the broccolis. Good. These guys just need to get bubbling and burbling. This one looks like the best dish for me, but you'd be surprised, even though this one's got the blackened part in the pan, I bet you this one's going to be the one I like the most in the middle of the week. It always turns out a little bit differently, you know, which one you think you're going to like the most. They're all going to be good, and you can swap them out on different days depending on what you're in the mood for. You don't have to like commit to it ahead of time, like, and say this is Tuesday and this is Wednesday. You can just be like, hey, I'm going to bring my Mexican dish in, and throw that in your lunchbox and go. So I'll answer a couple of questions while I'm doing this. These are questions I commonly get for meal prep, and one of them is, how long does the meal last in the refrigerator? You know, especially like a chicken dish. Like how good is this going to be on Friday if I made it on Sunday? And my answer to you is going to be great. It's going to be great on Friday. 5 days later, perfect. Just the refrigerator. You don't have to freeze anything. As long as you cooked it through the first time, you killed everything. You killed everything in this cooking. There's no way that a bunch of germs and everything are going to, you know, mount a comeback in your sealed containers in your refrigerator. Now, you go, you know, 7, 8 days, maybe you have an argument. But 5 days, I don't want to hear it. Your meals are going to be great. Even with, I do that even with fish. I do that with salmon. I'll do that with whitefish. I have no problems with that. You know, but you got to feel your own self out. How squeamish are you? That kind of thing, and grow into it. Let's see here. The other question I get a lot is, how do you know like what to get? And it really comes back to the whole question of like, well, what is your idea of a meal? You know? Like, you should think about it in terms of like a template. What is the kind of meal that you want to have at lunch? Do you want to have a meal that's all pasta? You know, with like a garnish of vegetables? Is that your idea of a good healthy lunch? Or is your idea like, oh, I want mostly vegetables and some meats and some grains? Or maybe you don't have grains. Maybe you just want a big slab of meat, some vegetables, and that's your eating style. Whatever it is, you should be able to kind of make a template out of it and say, okay, this is how much meat I want each meal. This is how much vegetables I want each meal. This is how much grains, if any, that I want. And that's how you shop. You shop using a number system as opposed to an ingredient list. You don't go to the grocery store saying, oh, I want, 5 servings of tomatoes. You go to the store saying, I want 5 servings of vegetables. And then when you're in the store, you look around and see which vegetables are looking good that day. And that's what you put in your basket. And then, like I just showed you, you figure out downstream what you're going to do with those ingredients. And you let the ingredients kind of inspire you. So this chicken is definitely cooked within an inch of its life. So I'm going to pull it. Plus, I just got to get it out of my airspace right now. Okay, that guy is done. And it should be that all of the chickens are done. So I'll take the beat to check on one of the pieces. And if you're checking if your chicken's done, for instance, it's good to take like the thickest piece you can find in your pan. think maybe this guy is the culprit right here. And then you just, cut it open either with your fork or your knife, and you look and you make sure that it's all white all the way through. There's no pinkage, which is very easy to tell with those stir fry cuts. Like I can tell without really cutting it open at this point if it's cooked or not. So then I'll pull this. Now we've got 2 meals down, and we got 3 to go. We're going to get this done just under the wire, I think, on our 50 minutes, assuming my oven cooperated. We'll find out what's going on in there in a second. Usually that's done right at the time these 3 that are on the stovetop are finished up. So I'll pull my Thai dish. All that beautiful coconut milk. Oh, that's going to be good. Excited to meet you again later this week, my friend. Excited to see you again. Put that out of the way. Now, let's pull out this hot pan here. Make a little bit of room. Got my rice is just waiting. We'll let that cool off for a second before I put my lids on them. Put this down so we can see what's going on in the oven. Uh-oh, I can tell my chicken's not quite there. Let me flip this over. Check out what's up. Let me just see here. Yeah, that's a big, thick piece of chicken that's going to take a few more minutes to get done. And if that's the case with that one, this one's got to go in as well. So I take it as the opportunity to just stir up my other vegetables, make sure they all get the seasoning love they deserve. They're doing their part. We've got to do our part. Make sure that they get to enjoy this meal. All right, there we go. And then let's get that back in the oven for a few minutes. And we'll be set. So here's, again, where you would just be like cleaning and getting your kitchen redressed and ready to go for your next cooking event. Because you don't want to have it feel like it was Thanksgiving, dinner after you just do a meal prep. So what you want to do, if that's what you're afraid of about, meal prep, that it's, like I said, is going to become a hot mess, is you want to start slowly. Then you want to do 3 meals, 2 meals. Do just a couple of meals ahead of time, just so you can get the feeling of doing a meal ahead of time and then, reheating it and seeing how it plays in your life. Did you actually get around to eating it? Just because you make 5 lunches doesn't mean you're going to eat those 5 lunches if you're not prepared to, eat home-cooked, meal-prepped meals. You kind of want to grow into it like most everything. So, it's one of the biggest rookie mistakes there is that you get all excited to do meal prep. You're going to make a ton of meals. You're going to stack your fridge. You're going to be all excited on Sunday afternoon. You're set for the week. And then as the week plays out, you got invited to dinner. You got invited to lunches. You forgot one at home. You brought one to work and you left it in your bag. And the meals over the course of the week don't get eaten. And then they're staring at you, angry, making you feel guilty. And you're like, this wasn't worth it. I spent the money, I put in the time, and now I got all these meals going to waste. Well, the fix for that is to not make so many meals. Grow into it, meaning you got to really make a bargain with yourself that you're going to actually eat those meals. You have to recalibrate the way you go about lunch. Like, if you go from not meal prepping to meal prepping, but your lunches are used to going out with your colleagues. You know, you go out with your colleagues for lunch. You have a routine around lunch that you do, and it's hard to break. You know, it's like there's a lot of things about your whole lunch routine that you probably really like that don't include how much money you spend and how, you know, grubby you feel afterwards when you're eating out. But there are a lot of other things that you do like about it and that's convenient to you. So you have to find your way through, and you got to find a way to make little tweaks and readjust your whole lunch routine in order to, you know, incorporate these. And so then you've done 2, you've done 3. At that point, you're ready to, you know, take on 5, 10 meals. You can make your lunches and your dinners. But like I said, it's all a process of week after week growing into it and making it a legitimate part of your life. You don't want to just throw meal prep on top of yourself. It's not going to work. It doesn't work for people. The people who it actually works for, who meal prep week in and week out, like myself, they're doing it for a specific reason to solve specific meals. And they know full well they're going to eat those meals and that those meals are going to come out tasting pretty good. And that they're not going to choose to eat something else because, you know, it would be more fun to eat something else. It's like, no, the meals are good, they're easy. And you've built up other things that you do, like I go, you know, to the gym, I go for a jog. I'll go, you know, just go for a walk outside just to enjoy myself. So there's other things that you would be doing at lunchtime if you're not, you know, schlepping to the corner market or the deli or the food truck or whatever. You know, 5 meals, 50 minutes, that's 10 minutes per meal. A lot faster than you'd ever do, you know, going to even get those meals. Even McDonald's is going to take you more than 10 minutes. So let's see if we've wasted enough time to make sure our chickens are cooked. We'll pull them out and we'll get them in our trays. Beautiful. All right, that's looking much better. So, you know, we're just going to take our serving things and we're going to get them in here, and we're just basically doing the same thing. Might use a larger spoon. We'll slot them out, put them in. Some of this juice can make its way in as well when you're done. This is like a nice wine sauce that's in the bottom of this Italian dish. Get all those tomatoes. You got a little room here with your rice where you can keep stowing stuff. Pack it in. You'll see these little containers really do fit a lot. First I was skeptical, but they're exactly the right amount of food. So I'm going to pour a little bit of that juice in as well, just because I like you. And I like you. You get some as well. And then I'll do the same thing over here. Get our mushrooms. There we go. All right. The rest we can broom in there. Put in with our rice. Get these out of our way. You can see the final assembly. Okay. There we go. We're just going to put our lids on. And we are set for 5 lunches. That's a full flight of meals. We got Italian and French, Mexican, Chinese, and Thai food coming our way this week. Next week, who knows what we'll make. But it's going to be another flight of 5 great meals. And we stack these up, and we can put them in the fridge, and they'll be ready to go. Stack them with their rices. Boom. Okay. And I am done making meals for the week.